Welcome to Quick Course Digest, where today we're doing a full deep dive into environmental science.
Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down the complex systems that make our planet tick. We'll look at the huge impact we have on those systems and explore some of the amazing ways we can work towards a sustainable future. So, let's get right into it.
Have you ever just stopped and looked around and thought, how does all of this actually work? From the air we breathe to the ground under our feet, what makes this whole planet function? And maybe the biggest question of all, what's our part to play in its future? Well, that's exactly what we're here to unpack.
All right, so to figure out our role, we first have to understand the rules of the game. Let's start with the absolute basics, the planet's fundamental operating system.
I want you to think of Earth like this incredibly complex, beautiful machine. It's got a few key parts working together. You've got the atmosphere, right? That's what drives our weather and climate. Then you have these massive geologic cycles constantly moving essential stuff like carbon and water all over the globe. And of course, there's the flow of energy. It all starts with plants using sunlight and then moves up through the food webs. The big takeaway here, nothing, and I mean nothing, works alone. Everything is connected.
And that brings us to maybe the single most important idea in all of environmental science, balance. You see, life as we know it exists in this very specific, very narrow sweet spot of conditions. It's this incredibly delicate dance. So what happens when we trip and one of the dancers falls? Well, you get a chain reaction, a domino effect. Just look at the ozone layer. So, step 1, we release pollutants that thin it out. Okay. Step 2, because it's thinner, more intense UV radiation gets through to the surface. Step 3, that extra radiation starts to heat things up. Step 4, the heat melts ice caps, and that causes the oceans to release massive amounts of carbon dioxide they had stored away. And boom, step 5, the whole warming cycle kicks into a higher gear. See how one little push can set off this huge, global cascade?
So, that's kind of the planet's physical hardware. Now, let's talk about the software, life itself. We're going to look at how it's organized, from the tiniest single cell all the way up to the entire living planet. So ecologists have this really cool way of looking at life in layers. It starts small, right, with a single organism, let's say one squirrel. Now get a bunch of those squirrels together in a park and you've got a population. Add in all the other living things, the trees, the birds, the insects, and now you've got a community. Then you factor in the non-living stuff like the sunlight, the soil, the water, and that's an ecosystem. Finally, you put all the ecosystems on Earth together, and that's it, the biosphere. Each level is built right on top of the one before it.
Okay, now here's a wild fact about how energy moves through those levels. It's called the 10% rule. Picture a big field of grass. When a rabbit eats that grass, it only gets about 10% of the energy the grass contained. The other 90%, it's just lost as heat. Then, if a fox eats that rabbit, the fox only gets 10% of the rabbit's energy. It's a fundamental law of nature, and it's the reason why the planet can support way more plants than it can top predators. There's just not enough energy to go around.
So energy flows in one direction, but matter gets recycled. And the absolute king of these cycles is the carbon cycle. It's a beautiful system. Plants pull carbon dioxide out of the air, animals eat the plants, we all breathe out CO2, and when things die, decomposers break them down and return that carbon right back into the system. For millions of years, this was this perfect balanced loop. But what happens when a new player comes along and starts digging up eons of buried carbon and pumping it into the air all at once?
For almost all of Earth's history, these systems just hummed along in their natural rhythm. But pretty recently, a new force showed up, a force powerful enough to actually change these global cycles. And that force is us.
Our entire impact really comes down to how we use the planet's resources, and you can basically split them into two buckets. First, you've got renewable resources. Think sunlight, wind, water. They either won't run out or they replenish themselves pretty quickly. But then you have non-renewable resources. These are things like fossil fuels and minerals that took millions of years to form. For us, their supply is basically finite. Once they're gone, they're gone.
And this is where we hit a major snag: overexploitation. It's a fancy word for a simple idea: using a resource way faster than nature can replace it. It's like having a bank account that you're only withdrawing from. Eventually, it's going to run dry. And this isn't just about oil. It's about pulling fish out of the sea faster than they can reproduce, or cutting down forests faster than they can grow back. We're pushing these systems past their breaking point.
And the fallout from this can be absolutely devastating. Remember the Deepwater Horizon disaster in 2010?
An estimated 210 million gallons of crude oil poured into the Gulf of Mexico. The damage to marine life and coastal communities was immense, and it's still being felt today.
And the impact isn't always some faraway disaster. It can be right inside our own homes. Get this, every single year, an incredible 4.3 million people die prematurely from diseases caused by household air pollution, mostly from burning things like wood or coal for cooking and heating. That is a direct, tragic human cost.
Or let's take another huge one, deforestation. Cutting down a forest is so much more than just losing trees. It sets off another one of those domino effects. First, you lose a massive carbon sink, which speeds up climate change. You mess up the water cycle, which can lead to droughts. The soil erodes and washes away. And of course, you destroy the homes of countless species, pushing them toward extinction.
Okay, I know that was a lot of pretty heavy stuff, but you can't solve a problem until you truly understand it. So, let's shift gears. Let's talk about solutions and the path forward.
So, how do we fix things? Well, scientists are basically attacking this on two fronts. On one hand, you have conservation biology. Think of this as preventative medicine for the planet. It's about protecting what we still have, setting up national parks, creating sustainable fishing rules, that kind of thing. Then you've got restoration ecology. This is more like emergency surgery. It's about going in and actively trying to rebuild ecosystems that we've already broken. And let me tell you, we absolutely need both.
And here's the good news. This stuff works. This isn't just some fantasy. After the U.S. passed the Clean Air Act back in 1970, the results were just, wow. Look at this chart. Levels of super dangerous pollutants like sulfur dioxide and lead just plummeted. This is real-world proof that when we actually decide to act, we can make huge positive changes.
Another massive sign of progress is the shift in our energy sources. Now, we still have a long way to go, but renewables are seriously on the rise. In the US right now, wind power is the biggest piece of the renewable pie, followed by hydropower. But keep an eye on solar. It's the fastest growing part of the whole mix. This transition is absolutely essential.
And all of this really is working toward one central goal: sustainability. This definition is so important. It's about figuring out how to meet our own needs today without messing things up for the people who come after us. It's about finding a new kind of balance, one where a healthy economy and a healthy planet aren't enemies, but are actually the exact same thing.
You know, the story of our planet isn't finished, not by a long shot. In fact, we are living through one of its most critical chapters right now, and every single one of us is helping to write it. The science is complex, and the challenges are huge, for sure. But the path forward is one we get to build together. The only real question left is, what is our chapter going to say?